Maya Rodriguez was having what she generously called a typical Tuesday aboard Galactic Station Omega-7, which meant she was currently staring at a 3-foot-tall ball of purple fluff that claimed to be the ambassador of an entire star empire. The creature's name was Lord Whiskers McFloof the 17th, and yes, Maya had checked the translation matrix twice because surely the universe wasn't that ridiculous. Spoiler alert, it absolutely was. Esteemed human representative Maya of the Rodriguez clan, Lord Whiskers began, his voice a peculiar combination of British aristocrat and squeaky toy. The Fluffarian Empire extends to you the most magnificent, most stupendous, most absolutely unprecedented honor in the history of our glorious civilization. Maya raised an eyebrow. In her 6 months as humanity's diplomatic liaison, she'd learned that when aliens started piling on the adjectives, they were either about to declare war or invite you to something weird. Given that Lord Whiskers looked like a tribble that had gone to finishing school, she was betting on weird. I am deeply honored by your magnificently stupendous honor, Maya replied, keeping her face professionally neutral, while internally wondering if her job description had mentioned anything about dealing with sentient cotton balls with delusions of grandeur. Lord Whiskers puffed up even more, which Maya hadn't thought was physically possible. You are cordially invited to partake in our most sacred tradition, the Feast of Eternal Harmony, a celebration of culinary perfection that occurs only once every 7 rotations of our homeworld around its twin suns. Maya did the math quickly. 7 rotations of their homeworld meant this happened roughly every 14 Earth years. Either this was actually a big deal, or the Fluffarians were really bad at party planning. The feast, Lord Whiskers continued, now practically vibrating with excitement, features the most exquisite delicacies from across our empire. Dishes so refined, so perfectly balanced, that they represent the pinnacle of gastronomic achievement in 17 star systems. Sounds delightful, Maya said, though something about the way he emphasized perfectly balanced made her stomach preemptively nervous. In her experience, when aliens bragged about their food being perfectly balanced, it usually meant it tasted like cardboard had a baby with wet cement. But hey, diplomacy was diplomacy, and if eating some questionable alien cuisine would help keep the peace between humanity and the Fluffarian Empire, she'd suffer through it. Besides, how bad could it possibly be? Famous last words, as it turned out. 20 minutes later, Maya found herself in the security office of Commander Grok, a 7-foot-tall reptilian who looked like someone had given a crocodile a military uniform and a really bad attitude. Grok was the kind of being who made small talk sound like a war crime, which Maya actually appreciated. No nonsense, no fluff, just straight answers. So, Maya said, settling into the chair across from his desk, what's the deal with this Fluffarian feast? Any cultural landmines I should know about? Grok's yellow eyes fixed on her with the intensity of a sniper scope. Several. The Fluffarians consider their cuisine sacred. Do not comment on texture, do not ask for seasoning, do not suggest modifications, do not make facial expressions that could be interpreted as displeasure. Wow, they really take their food seriously, Maya muttered. What happens if I break one of these rules? Diplomatic incident. Possible trade embargo. Last ambassador who grimaced at their soup had to issue a formal apology to their entire parliament. Maya blinked. He grimaced at soup and nearly caused an interstellar incident? Correction. She grimaced at what they call soup. You would call it warm, flavored water with floating cubes of compressed plant matter. Actually sounds terrible. It is terrible, but you will smile and tell them it is delicious. Just then, the office door chimed, and in walked what Maya could only describe as a nervous blue jellyfish wearing a lab coat. The creature's tentacles were constantly twitching, and he carried a tablet that he consulted every 3 seconds, like it contained the secrets of the universe. Ah, Dr. Bleep, Grok said without looking up. Perfect timing. Dr. Bleep is our station's xenoanthropologist. He has been studying human behavior patterns. Dr. Bleep's voice was a series of melodic tones that the universal translator rendered as anxious stammering. Oh yes, yes. Fascinating species, humans are. So unpredictable. I have been documenting Maya's dietary preferences, and I must say, most concerning patterns have emerged. Concerning how? Maya asked, suddenly feeling like she was being studied by a very worried scientist. You consume substances that would be considered chemical weapons by 73% of known species. Yesterday I observed you putting what you called hot sauce on your breakfast. The capsaicin levels were, well, let me just say that substance is banned as a torture device in 12 systems. Maya laughed. It's just sriracha. Pretty mild stuff, actually. Dr. Bleep's tentacles went rigid. Mild? Mild? You consider a Category 7 pain-inducing compound to be mild? Lady, Grok interrupted, his voice carrying the weight of someone who had seen too much. Please tell me you are not planning to request spicy food at this feast. Well, I wasn't planning to, but now that you mention it, if the food is as bland as you're making it sound. The look that passed between Grok and Dr. Bleep could have powered a small starship. Maya suddenly got the feeling she was missing something important. 3 hours later, Maya stood at the entrance to the Flufarian feast hall, wondering if she'd accidentally walked into a museum exhibit titled, What Happens When Interior Decorators Go Insane. The walls were covered in shimmering fabric that seemed to change colors every time she blinked, and the ceiling was draped with what looked like crystallized spiderwebs that tinkled softly in a non-existent breeze. Welcome, honored guest, Lord Whiskers McFloof appeared beside her, somehow managing to bow while being spherical. Behold, the sacred hall of culinary perfection. Maya beheld. The hall was filled with about 50 Flufarians, all various shades of purple and pink, sitting at tables that appeared to be made of polished clouds. Each table was set with delicate crystal implements that looked like they'd shatter if you breathed on them wrong. Your seat of honor awaits, Lord Whiskers announced, leading her to a table at the front of the hall. Maya sat down carefully, half expecting the cloud chair to dissolve beneath her. The other Flufarians at her table introduced themselves with names that sounded like a Victorian poet having a fever dream. There was Lady Pompom the Ethereal, Duke Snuggles of the Gossamer Realm, and Countess Fluffington the Transcendent. Maya nodded politely and tried not to think about how her full name would sound in their naming convention. And now, Lord Whiskers announced to the hall, we begin with the traditional appetizer of sublime anticipation. Servers glided in carrying trays of what Maya generously decided to call food. The appetizer looked like small, perfectly white cubes arranged in a geometric pattern. No seasoning, no garnish, no color whatsoever. It was like someone had taken the concept of flavor and systematically removed it. Maya picked up one of the impossibly delicate crystal utensils and took a bite. The texture was, well, imagine if styrofoam had somehow achieved sentience and decided to become a food critic. The taste was the culinary equivalent of beige paint. Exquisite, is it not? Lady Pompom sighed rapturously. The perfect balance of nothing and less than nothing, with subtle hints of absolute neutrality. Maya managed, forcing what she hoped was a diplomatic smile. Very balanced. The second course arrived, the soup of eternal blandness. It was exactly what Grok had described, warm water with floating cubes of compressed plant matter. The cubes had the consistency of wet cardboard and about as much flavor. Ah, Duke Snuggles practically moaned with pleasure. Taste how the liquid achieves perfect harmony with the solid elements. No single flavor dominates. Pure culinary meditation. Maya spooned some into her mouth and wondered if this was what despair tasted like. She'd eaten military rations that had more personality than this soup. The third course was announced as the entree of magnificent inoffensiveness. It arrived looking like a beige log sitting on a bed of what might have been lettuce if lettuce had given up on life and decided to become paper. And now, Lord Whiskers announced, his voice trembling with emotion, the sacred dish of ultimate flavor. The servers approached with reverent steps, carrying covered platters. Maya felt a surge of hope. Maybe this would be different. Maybe they'd save the actual food for last. The covers were lifted with ceremonial flourish. It was a white cube. A single, perfect, flavorless white cube sitting alone on a crystal plate. Maya stared at it. This was their ultimate dish. This was what they'd been building up to. A cube that looked like it had been carved from compressed air and seasoned with the hopes and dreams of accountants. She took a bite. It tasted like absolutely nothing had been distilled into pure nothingness and then carefully refined to remove any traces of taste that might have accidentally snuck in. Magnificent, Countess Fluffington whispered. Can you taste the perfect absence of flavor? The way it achieves complete neutrality across all taste profiles? Maya nodded weakly, her taste buds staging what felt like a small rebellion. She'd traveled halfway across the galaxy to eat what was essentially edible cardboard, served by creatures who talked about it like it was the meaning of life. That's when she made the mistake that would go down in diplomatic history. Maya looked around the table at the 50 Flufarians who were practically vibrating with culinary ecstasy over what was essentially a three-dimensional representation of the concept of boredom. Her diplomatic training was screaming at her to smile, nod, and compliment the chef. Her taste buds were staging a full-scale revolt. "This is," she began, searching for the right diplomatic words, "certainly an experience. I don't suppose you have any condiments, maybe some hot sauce?" The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Lady Pom-Pom's spoon clattered to the table. Duke Snuggles made a sound like a deflating balloon. Countess Fluffington actually fell backwards off her cloud chair. But it was Lord Whiskers who provided the most dramatic reaction. His purple fluff turned completely white, his eyes rolled back, and he toppled over like a fainting goat, hitting the floor with a soft thud. "Emergency protocols!" someone screamed from across the hall. "Code Crimson, evacuate the younglings!" Maya blinked as chaos erupted around her. Flufarians were running in circles, some diving under tables, others pressing themselves against the walls. The crystalline decorations began chiming frantically, apparently some kind of alarm system. What did I do?" Maya asked. But the only Flufarian still at her table was Duke Snuggles, who was hyperventilating into a small paper bag. You mentioned the forbidden condiment," he wheezed between gasps. "The weapon of mass destruction, the harbinger of the end times." "Hot sauce, it's just hot sauce." Duke Snuggles' paper bag exploded from his panicked breathing. "Just hot sauce, just? Do you have any idea what your species did to the Scorching Nebula?" "I know. What are you talking about?" "The Great Spice Wars of 2387, Duke Snuggles wailed. "Your people introduced capsaicin-based weapons to the Thermal Collective. Entire planets were rendered uninhabitable. The jalapeno incident alone caused 3 species to evolve heat-resistant mucous membranes." Maya stared at him. "Wait, are you telling me that humans accidentally started a war with spicy food?" "Accidentally?" Duke Snuggles was now hyperventilating so hard he was levitating slightly. "The ghost pepper bombardment of Kepler 442b was accidental? The habanero diplomatic disaster was accidental? I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm pretty sure those weren't actual wars." That's when the hall's main door burst open, and Commander Groke stormed in, followed by Dark Bleep, who was frantically consulting his tablet while his tentacles flailed in panic. "Rodriguez," Grok barked, "step away from the civilians." "What has happened? Why?" "Because," Dr. Bleep announced, his voice hitting frequencies that made the crystal decorations ring like wind chimes. "According to my research, humans don't just consume capsaicin. They enjoy it. They seek it out. They have competitions to see who can consume the most without dying. Well, yeah, hot sauce eating contests are pretty fun." The remaining Flufarians screamed in unison. "She admits it," Duke Snuggles sobbed. "She admits to participating in death rituals involving chemical weapons." "It's not a death ritual," Maya protested. "It's just, spicy food. It makes things taste better." "Taste better?" This came from Lord Whiskers, who had apparently regained consciousness just in time to hear the most horrifying thing imaginable. "You consume pain-inducing compounds to enhance flavor? What kind of sadistic species are you?" "Look, I think there's been a misunderstanding," Maya said, standing up slowly. "Hot sauce isn't a weapon. It's like seasoning. It adds flavor." "Seasoning?" Dr. Bleep repeated, typing furiously on his tablet. Yes. I'm reading about this now. Humans deliberately add chemical compounds to their food that cause physical pain. Salt, pepper, garlic, onions. All of these are toxic to 70% of known species. Garlic is toxic. The Vampiric Confederation of Vega Prime considers it a Class A bioweapon, Grok said grimly. They've been trying to get it banned by the Galactic Council for decades. Maya looked around the hall. Half the Flufarians had fainted. The other half were pressed against the walls like they were trying to phase through them. Lord Whiskers was being fanned by several servants while muttering something about the spice demons and why didn't anyone warn us? "So, let me get this straight," Maya said slowly. "You invited me to dinner, served me the most flavorless food in the galaxy, and now you're all terrified because I asked for hot sauce?" "You didn't just ask for hot sauce," Countess Fluffington whispered from somewhere behind an overturned table. "You asked for it during the sacred feast of eternal harmony. You have desecrated our most holy culinary tradition with talk of chemical warfare seasoning. It's sriracha, it's not chemical warfare." "According to my calculations," Dr. Beep announced, A single drop of what humans call mild hot sauce contains enough capsaicin to incapacitate a Flufarian for 6 standard hours. Maya felt a headache coming on. Has anyone ever actually tried hot sauce? Like a really small amount? The silence that followed was so complete you could have heard a pin drop in the next galaxy. Try it? Lord Whiskers finally gasped. Try the forbidden condiment? The sauce of ultimate suffering? Ah. Oh, for the love of... Maya started, then caught herself. Diplomacy, right. Look, what if I showed you that it's harmless? What if I demonstrated that humans can consume hot sauce without dying? The Flufarians exchanged glances that somehow managed to be both terrified and fascinated. You would willingly consume the weapon of mass destruction in front of witnesses? Duke Snuggles whispered. If it would prove that humans aren't trying to poison the galaxy with spicy food, then yes. Dr. Bleep's tentacles were now typing so fast they were blurring. This could be the anthropological discovery of the century, the first recorded instance of a human demonstrating capsaicin tolerance in a controlled environment. I'm not demonstrating tolerance, Maya said. I'm just going to put some hot sauce on this white cube and eat it. The collective gasp from the Flufarians was so powerful it actually created a small breeze. What happened next would later be referred to in diplomatic circles as the Great Condiment Crisis of 2398. The hall's emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in an ominous red glow. Klaxons began wailing from speakers Maya hadn't even noticed. Through the chaos, she could hear an automated voice announcing, "Station-wide alert. Potential chemical warfare demonstration in progress. All personnel maintain safe distance from Dining Hall 7. Chemical warfare? Maya shouted over the noise. It's just hot sauce. Shush. Commander Grok had arrived with what appeared to be a full hazmat team. Rodriguez, step away from the condiment request immediately. I haven't even made a condiment request. I just asked if they had any. That's when the doors burst open again, and in walked someone Maya had never seen before. A tall, crystalline being whose body seemed to be made of living diamond. The noise level immediately dropped to a whisper. I am High Counselor Prism of the Galactic Diplomatic Corps, the being announced, their voice like wind chimes in a hurricane. I have come to assess the threat level of this situation. Threat level? Maya asked weakly. Ma'am, High Counselor Prism said, turning to face her with the gravity of someone delivering news of an alien invasion. Are you aware that your species has been classified as a Level 9 culinary hazard by the Galactic Safety Commission? A what now? Dr. Bleep tentatively approached, his tablet now smoking from overuse. I've been researching human dietary patterns for months, and the data is, well, it's terrifying. Humans consume substances that would kill most species. Caffeine, alcohol, chocolate, mint, citrus acids. Those are normal foods. Normal? High Counselor Prism's crystalline form somehow managed to look incredulous. The Zebulon Empire considers chocolate a Schedule 1 narcotic. The Gossamer Collective has banned citrus fruits as corrosive agents. And caffeine? Caffeine is literally used as an insecticide by 47 different species. Maya felt like she was trapped in the universe's most ridiculous fever dream. So you're telling me that humans are accidentally the most dangerous species in the galaxy because we like coffee and chocolate? Oh, it gets worse, Dr. Bleep said, consulting his tablet. I've been monitoring your meal patterns. Yesterday, you consumed something called wasabi with your lunch. Do you know what wasabi is classified as in the Arcturus system? Seasoning? Tear gas. The remaining conscious Flufarians whimpered in unison. And that's not even the concerning part. Dr. Bleep continued, his tentacles now vibrating with what Maya was beginning to recognize as scientific excitement mixed with existential terror. The concerning part is that you didn't just consume these substances. You enjoyed them. You smiled while eating them. You even asked for more. Because they taste good. She admits it! Lord Whiskers had apparently recovered enough to contribute to the conversation. She admits to deriving pleasure from consuming chemical weapons. High Counselor Prism began pacing, which was unsettling because their crystalline feet made tiny ringing sounds on the floor. This explains so much. The Terran trade wars of 2394, the chili pepper incident at the Rigel station, the Great Coffee Bean embargo of 2396. Wait, what coffee bean embargo? The one where your species accidentally poisoned half the diplomatic corps at the Galactic Peace Summit by serving them something called espresso? Commander Grok said grimly. 3 ambassadors had to be hospitalized for caffeine overdose. That's not how coffee works. Tell that to Ambassador Flibber of the Delicate Digestive Consortium, High Counselor Prism said. He's still in therapy. Maya looked around the hall. The Flafarians were now huddled in groups, whispering among themselves and occasionally pointing at her like she was a ticking time bomb. The hazmat team had established a perimeter around her table. Dr. Bleep was frantically taking notes about everything she said. So let me understand this correctly, Maya said slowly. The entire galaxy thinks humans are dangerous because we eat spicy food, drink coffee, and enjoy chocolate? Oh, that's just the beginning, Dr. Bleep said, his voice reaching new octaves of panic. I've been studying your species' relationship with pain-inducing consumables. You have competitions, you have television shows, you have entire industries built around seeing who can consume the most capsaicin without dying. Those are just hot sauce challenges. They're fun. Fun? Duke Snuggles had apparently recovered enough to screech. You consider ritual self-poisoning to be recreational entertainment. It's not self-poisoning, it's just, look, spicy food doesn't actually hurt you, it just feels like it does. It's like a roller coaster for your mouth. The silence that followed was so profound that Maya could hear her own heartbeat. The roller coaster, High Counselor Prism repeated slowly, for your mouth. Yeah, exciting but not actually dangerous. She compares chemical warfare to amusement park rides, Dr. Vleep whispered, typing so fast his tentacles were smoking. This is unprecedented. The psychological profiles we'll need to develop. Look, Maya said, standing up again. I think we're all overreacting here. Humans have been eating spicy food for thousands of years. We're fine. We're more than fine. We're thriving. Thriving, Lord Whiskers repeated faintly. They're thriving because they consume pain. That's actually not wrong, Maya admitted. I mean, not literally, but spicy food does make you feel good. Endorphins and all that. Pleasure chemicals? Dr. Bleep's tablet actually caught fire. You're telling me that humans have evolved to produce pleasure chemicals in response to consuming toxic substances? Well, when you put it like that, this changes everything, High Counselor Prism announced. If humans can not only survive but actually enjoy consuming what the rest of the galaxy considers chemical weapons, then your species isn't just dangerous. You're apex predators of the culinary world. Maya blinked. Apex predators? Think about it, Commander Grok said, and for the first time since she'd known him, he actually looked impressed. Your species can consume substances that would hospitalize most life forms. You don't just tolerate them, you seek them out. You compete over who can consume the most. And you do it for fun. We're not apex predators, we just like flavor. Ma'am, High Counselor Prism said solemnly, your species has weaponized flavor. You've turned taste into a form of recreational chemical warfare. Do you understand what that means? Maya was beginning to get a sinking feeling. That I'm never going to live this down. It means, Dr. Bleep announced, extinguishing his tablet, that humans are officially the most terrifying species in the galaxy. Not because you're violent, not because you're aggressive, but because you eat breakfast foods that could be used to torture prisoners of war. Oh, come on, it's just sriracha. The collective whimper from every alien in the room suggested that, no, it really wasn't just sriracha. Maya stood in the center of what had become an impromptu xenobiological research station, surrounded by aliens who looked at her like she was a walking weapons cache. The irony wasn't lost on her that she'd come to a diplomatic dinner and somehow ended up being treated like a one-woman army. All right, she said, raising her hands in what she hoped was a calming gesture. Everyone just breathe, or whatever it is you all do instead of breathing. Let's solve this diplomatically. How does one negotiate with a being who considers chemical warfare a recreational activity? Lord Whiskers asked weakly from his position on the floor, where he was still being fanned by concerned servants. Simple, Maya said, pulling out her personal emergency kit from her jacket pocket. Every diplomat carried one, though Maya's was probably the only one that contained travel-sized condiments. I'm going to demonstrate that humans consuming spicy food isn't dangerous to anyone except possibly ourselves. She pulled out a small bottle of sriracha. The reaction was immediate and dramatic. Controlment breach, someone screamed. The hazmat team actually took a step back. Dr. Bleep fainted directly onto his smoldering tablet. It's in a bottle, Maya protested. It's not even open. She's armed, Duke Snuggles wailed. The human is armed with military-grade flavor enhancement. For crying out loud, Maya muttered. then had what she would later describe as either her worst idea or her best idea, depending on how you looked at it. You know what? Fine. You want to see what happens when a human consumes your so-called chemical weapons? Watch this. She opened the bottle. The sound that came from the assembled aliens was like a choir of air raid sirens having an existential crisis. "Everyone down," Commander Grok shouted. "She's opening the containment vessel." Maya looked at the small red bottle in her hand, then at the 50-plus aliens who were either diving for cover or hyperventilating into paper bags. "It's condiment, not plutonium." "The difference," High Counselor Prism said, speaking from behind an overturned table, "is largely academic from our perspective." "Fine," Maya said, and squeezed a generous dollop of sriracha onto the remaining white cube of ultimate flavor. "I'm going to eat this. I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm going to prove that humans aren't trying to poison the galaxy." She took a bite. The silence was absolute. Even the emergency alarms seemed to hold their breath. Maya chewed thoughtfully, swallowed, and smiled. "Oh, that's so much better. Actually has some taste now." What followed could only be described as a religious experience, if your religion involved tiny purple aliens discovering that their fundamental understanding of the universe was wrong. "She consumed it," Dr. Bleat whispered, having apparently recovered consciousness just in time to witness what he probably considered the scientific equivalent of watching someone juggle antimatter. "She consumed it and smiled," Lord Whiskers added, his voice full of awe. "She consumed it, smiled, and said it was better," Duke Snuggles said, sounding like he was having a spiritual awakening. "I've been saying that for the last hour," Maya pointed out, taking another bite. "This is literally what humans do every day." "Every day?" High Counselor Prism emerged from behind the table, their crystalline form refracting the emergency lighting into tiny rainbows. "You do this every day?" "Some of us do it multiple times per day. I had eggs with Tabasco sauce for breakfast, a sandwich with jalapenos for lunch, and I was planning to get Thai food for dinner." "Thai food," Dr. Bleat repeated, frantically scribbling notes on what remained of his tablet. "Is that a classification of chemical weapon?" "It's a type of cuisine. From Thailand, on Earth. They use a lot of chilies." "A lot of chilies," Lord Whiskers said faintly. "An entire planetary cuisine based on chemical warfare." "Based on flavor," Maya corrected, but she was beginning to realize she was fighting a losing battle. High Counselor Prism stood up to their full height, which was impressive and slightly terrifying. "Ambassador Rodriguez, on behalf of the Galactic Diplomatic Corps, I must inform you that this demonstration has fundamentally altered how we view your species. In a good way or a bad way? It remains to be seen. However, I believe we need to reclassify humans from level 9 culinary hazard to, well, we'll need to create a new category. Something along the lines of impossibly dangerous, but apparently harmless to themselves." Maya finished the last of her sriracha-enhanced cube and wiped her mouth with a napkin. "Look, I get that this is all very shocking to you, but from a human perspective you just invited me to the most boring dinner in the galaxy and then freaked out when I asked for seasoning." "Seasoning," Countess Fluffington repeated, emerging from behind her own overturned table. "She calls it seasoning. Because that's what it is." "No," High Counselor Prisma said slowly. "What it is proof that humans are the most terrifyingly adaptable species we've ever encountered. You've somehow evolved to not only survive exposure to substances that would kill most life forms, but to actively seek them out and enjoy them." "When you put it like that, we do sound pretty badass," Maya admitted. "Badass," Dr. Bleep repeated, typing on his partially melted tablet, adding that to the file, along with apex predator, chemical warfare enthusiast, and possibly insane. "We're not insane, we just like things that taste good." "Ma'am," Commander Groke said, and Maya realized he was actually grinning, "your species has just accidentally established themselves as the most feared culinary force in the galaxy. Do you understand what that means?" Maya looked around at the assembled aliens, all of whom were now staring at her with a mixture of terror and fascination. "That I'm never going to get a decent meal at a diplomatic function ever again?" "It means," High Counselor Prism announced, "that humans have achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. You've become legendary without ever meaning to." "Legendary how?" "Think about it," Lord Whiskers said, still speaking from his position on the floor but now sounding oddly excited. "Across 17 star systems, the story will spread. The tale of the human who consumed chemical weapons at a diplomatic dinner and asked for more. The species that considers pain-inducing substances to be recreational entertainment." Oh no, Maya said, suddenly understanding where this was going. Oh yes, Dr. Bleep said gleefully. By tomorrow, every species in the galaxy will know that humans are the beings who eat torture devices for breakfast and call it mild. Within a week, High Counselor Prism added, human cuisine will be classified as a form of psychological warfare. Your restaurants will require hazmat certification. Your cookbooks will be studied by military strategists. Maya put her head in her hands. I just wanted some hot sauce. And in asking for it, Commander Grok said, still grinning, you've accidentally turned your entire species into the most legendary badasses in galactic history. Congratulations, Lord Whiskers said, finally sitting up. You've just made humanity famous across the galaxy as the species that weaponize flavor and calls it fun. Maya looked at the empty sriracha bottle in her hand, then at the assembled aliens who were now looking at her like she was simultaneously the most dangerous and most impressive being they'd ever encountered. You know what? She said finally. I can live with that. But next time you invite a human to dinner, maybe mention that your food is designed to have no flavor whatsoever. We could have avoided this whole thing. Avoided it? Duke Snuggles asked, sounding genuinely confused. My dear Ambassador, this is the most exciting thing that's happened to galactic diplomacy in centuries. We wouldn't dream of avoiding it. Besides, High Counselor Prism added, we're all far too curious now. I believe I speak for everyone when I say we'd very much like to see what happens when you try this Thai food you mentioned. Maya grinned. Oh, you have no idea what you're asking for. The collective shudder from every alien in the room suggested that they were beginning to suspect they really didn't. And that, Maya reflected, as she watched a room full of terrified aliens slowly come to terms with the fact that humanity had accidentally become the galaxy's most feared culinary species, was exactly how humans had always preferred it. After all, if you're going to be legendary, you might as well be legendary for something delicious.